This is an All Ears English podcast episode 1962. How to be successful, happy, and present in business with executive coach Eric Holsapple. Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, downloaded more than 200 million times. We believe in connection, not perfection, with your American host, Lindsay McMahon, and today's featured guest coming to you from Denver, Colorado, USA. And to get your transcripts delivered by email every week, go to allearsenglish.com/subscribe. Do you keep striving for career success but find that no matter how many income benchmarks you reach, you're never quite happy and present? Today, leadership coach Eric Holsapple shows us the first 3 pillars of mindful leadership to build a happier career and life. Hello, Eric. I'm very excited to have you on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Lindsay. Nice to be on with you.
Great. It's good to be on with a fellow Coloradan. Glad to have you here. Guys, on the show today, we have Eric Holsapple. Eric has a PhD in economics and has been a real estate CEO and developer for nearly 40 years. And it's a hot real estate market in Colorado. So you must have had a lot of work in the last 40 years.
Up and down. Yes.
Up and down. Absolutely. Eric has also lectured in real estate at Colorado State University for 20 years and has practiced yoga and meditation for 30 years. What's more, Eric has won the Entrepreneur of the Year award from Colorado State University and BizWest Magazine. You are based right here in Loveland, Colorado. And I also noticed that all 3 of your adult children are business owners. Is that correct, Eric?
It is. Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. So you must have really instilled in them a sense of entrepreneurship.
I don't know if it's that or they just don't want to work for anybody. One of the two.
Well, I'm excited to have you here today, Eric, because I think a lot of our listeners are quite curious about the intersection between leadership, business, and mindfulness. And this is your area. This is what you speak about and train on. So, Eric, what is mindfulness? Let's start there.
A lot in the business community, when I talk about it, they go, oh, that's woo-woo. You sing Kumbaya and hold hands. It's just too soft and, slow for business. And I just think that's wrong thinking because mindfulness to me is focus. The ability to be happy and focus and bring home my goals and objectives in a business context. I just see nothing inconsistent with mindfulness and business. I mean, you can take it some other places, but you don't need to.
Yes, I love that.
The book I've written just shows how you can go as deep as you want, or really just start with a few basic practices and just start to bring mindfulness into your life and into your business.
Yeah, I love it. And here's a spontaneous question before we get into the meat of today's interview. What would you say? So if mindfulness is focus, what would you say, Eric, is the number one thing that prevents or hinders mindfulness or focus in your mind that you have seen in the corporate and the business world?
Well, I mean, just distractions. We're so distracted and divided and gridlocked, distracted. And mindfulness is a matter of, putting a stake in the ground and saying, no, my focus belongs to me.
Yes,
it doesn't belong to anybody else. It doesn't belong to Facebook or media or the government or, it belongs to me. And it takes some practice.
My focus belongs to me. I love that quote. I think that is so important for our listeners all over the world. We are all struggling with this now that the internet has kind of become such a huge part of our lives. We're all in the same reality. So was there a moment when you realized that you wanted to, how did you discover mindfulness yourself personally, Eric? I'm curious.
Well, I was successful early.
Okay.
In my 20s, I ran a division of an Australian company, real estate. I'm a real estate developer, ran their US operations and was CEO in my 20s.
Yeah.
And early at 30, I just wasn't happy. I had all the trappings of success. I had the apartment on the bay and I had the Mercedes and I had the title and the 6-figure salary, but I was miserable. Inside I was overweight. I wasn't exercising.
Yeah.
I drank too much,
Mm-hmm.
and I was single. And
Okay.
so I just had an epiphany moment, and I just said, you know what, you got to make some changes or you're not going to be around very long.
Yes.
So I did that. I lost some weight. I left that job. I decided I was going to go back and get my doctorate. And my first entry into mindfulness was I stumbled on yoga.
Okay.
And I was
Okay.
an athlete, and it just like I had been separated from my body, and
Yep.
I got back into my body, and it was a game changer. And then my older brother was kind of estranged from my dad, and I watched him repair that relationship through meditation. And he introduced it to
Wow.
me.
Beautiful.
So I started as a closet meditator for years, and it just changed my whole life.
Amazing. I love it. I love that kind of story. And we know our listeners have reached a certain level of success in business, many of them, but they're probably finding the same thing that only goes so far in terms of your happiness, or it could create the opposite feeling, unhappiness, if we don't tend to being present and being happy in life. So let's get into it then, Eric. I know that you have published a book about about mindfulness and business, right? Presence and leadership. But could you let us know what the 12 pillars of mindful leadership are? Maybe you want to run through just tell us the 12 real quick, and then we could focus on the first three if you want.
I can read and summarize them a little better. So the book is Profit with Presence, the 12 pillars of mindful leadership. And the first pillar is be present and practice mindfulness.
Okay.
The second pillar is find your purpose in life. The
Okay.
third pillar is vision, commitment, intention, and habits.
Okay.
And then it starts, the remaining pillars are all about mindset. Be, do, have, how to have a way of being.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then how to listen, how to be grateful, how to have non-judgment. So the other pillars really fit within those in the mindset category.
Mindset. Okay. So I like the first three in terms of what we could focus on in today's episode. Could you give us some very actionable steps we can take, very specific things we can do within these first three? Maybe we'll start out with just mindfulness. What can our listeners do if they're at a high level in business, but something is missing, or they know they could even perform better if they had something more, like that sense of focus?
I always tell people, if there's just one thing and you want to get started, number one is to start practicing gratitude. It just changes your whole mindset and gives you a little bit of a little bit of a space. And then when you have that, within that is just start picking an intention and a few small things like paying attention to your breath, taking a mindful walk, and the intention to just be more mindful.
Okay.
And meditation can really be helpful for busy professionals that don't have a lot of time in nature and whatnot. And if you do that, just do 2 minutes to start. Just start small, and then be consistent as you can. People oftentimes just start too much.
Right.
It's not, you don't have the time, and it's not sustainable. And plus, it's just, if you practice a little bit, when the mind calms down and you get more efficient, you have more time and you'll want to do more.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, you're right, Eric, they think, oh, I have to be sitting on top of a mountain somewhere or be in a cave to actually start this. But, a lot of our listeners live in massive world capitals, right? We know that you guys don't necessarily have access to nature every day, and that's okay, right? But we can do something simple by, how do you practice gratitude? Do you write that in a journal, the things you're grateful for?
I do.
Okay.
That's what I do. I write in a journal 3 things every day, and then why.
Okay.
Now, there's other ways you could do it just verbally. I like, when I'm writing, I'm also saying it to myself, so I get like a double dose. But it's just, there's an after effect.
Yes.
When you're gratitude, you start seeing things to be grateful for and happy. The same thing, if you leave your house angry, everything makes you angry.
Right.
The guy pulled out in front of you, you didn't have time at the gas station, whatever it is, your whole day goes that way. So it just starting you out on a different track.
It's so true. And, a few years ago, I was keeping a gratitude journal myself, and it absolutely works. It does something with your brain. So we're kind of re-encoding our brains in a way, aren't we, Eric, here?
Totally.
We're changing the way that the neurons fire, and the idea of the double, what did you say? Like the double hit kind of by.
Yeah. When you're writing or listening and you're saying it to yourself, you get a double hit, but we're such habitual creatures.
Right.
And we we need the habits that are consistent with what our vision is. Here's the vision, here's what I want in my life. But if my commitments and my habits aren't lined up, they're really hard to keep. But I want my habits to line up with my commitments. So I need to really focus on what my vision is, what am I committed to? And then I need to be intentional about, okay, I need to have the habits, because studies show like 95% of the time we're just doing the next thing. Right. We're just habitual.
Right.
So that's okay if my habits are good. But if my habits are more sabotaging, then I wonder, why am I always stubbing my toe? Well, because my habits are not aligned with what I really want to do.
Oh man, this is really inspiring me to restart my gratitude journal. I fell off somehow, but I could truly feel the difference. So our listeners, guys, if you are skeptical about this, try it out. Try it for, what would you say, Eric, maybe a month to start a gratitude? When do you start feeling, I think it's sooner than a month that you actually feel the results.
I feel the result day one.
It's
been a long time for me, but we're running an 8-week corporate mindfulness program right now. And in the first week, I know people noticed a difference.
Incredible.
With that.
Okay.
So let's say a week.
All right. I would say a week. Yeah. Give it a week and, let us know in our channels here for All Ears English how it goes. I am very sure you guys are going to feel the difference. So that is the first pillar of mindful leadership, is mindfulness. What would be the second one again? Remind us that second pillar.
Identify your purpose in life.
Yes.
Just, I find people, they when they don't have motivation, or they say their workforce doesn't have motivation, it's just a good time to check your purpose. Because if I'm living my purpose, I know what my purpose is and I'm living it, I pop out of bed. I'm ready to go. It's not work.
Yeah.
It's a calling. It's not work. So that's what I want. I want to be called to action, not to be forced into, and I have this to-do list I got to do today,
Right. There has to be something more to life, right?
Yes.
And what would you say is your purpose exactly? How would you put that into words, just for an example for our listeners?
So my main purpose is to wake every day and, just experience my presence and my consciousness, to realize I'm a human, with a spirit and a body. And that's my first step. And then I say, okay, now what am I doing? And for me, my purpose now is to practice mindfulness and deliver to the business community and try to change that conversation.
Yes.
But I want to be present in whatever I'm doing. If it's with my kids, then I want to be present. If it's with a client, I want to be present. And whenever I show up with presence, I show up in a very impactful and persuasive way. And I'm a leader in presence. But if I'm not present and I'm disconnected from what I'm doing, I don't find I'm nearly as effective.
Right. I love it. So there's a literal thing that you're doing, right? And then there's also the top layer that goes across everything, which is that mindfulness, that presence. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah, that's right. And some things, if I'm doing something out of alignment with myself, then it's harder to be present. But if I'm really doing something that I'm aligned with my vision and my goals and who I am and my morals, then, presence shows up easily. So that's part of it too.
I love it. What are some things that our listeners can do to dig into this? Because it's a big question. I think we can get a little stressed out when we think, what is my purpose? Are there certain assessments that you would recommend, or how do we go about finding it? I know what mine is. It is to help people connect through English language, human connection, not getting stuck in perfection. I'm very clear about that for myself. But I think our listeners, some of them would like to dive into this and figure out what it is for them.
Well, the reason that it's the second pillar, when I first did this, it was the first pillar years ago. And after several workshops and, things that we run through, is that it's much easier to find it with mindfulness. Because the first thing we do with mindfulness is like clear out the trunk.
Yeah.
We let a lot of stuff. We just realize that most of us, the purpose has come from culture, or our parents, or our schools, or the government. It's all purpose is to make things and consume things, buying and selling.
Interesting.
And so it's almost like insatiable that I just have to keep doing that. So I say, break that down. You may adopt your family's purpose or your society, but
sure.
Adopt it formally. Say, yeah, that is really what I want. But most of the time I find, purpose is more in like to be happy. Yeah. And we want things to be happy. And we get on this treadmill and then we meet our goals and we just move the goalposts and say, no, I need the bigger house. I got to have the international vacation. I got to fly private.
Yeah.
It just keeps changing.
Sure.
And it's like, we can't ever get there. So I say, no, it's got to be something. It's got to be my own. And I got to keep track of myself that I'm not just constantly wanting more and more and more.
Okay. So then leading into the next piece, which you said is vision, is that right? How does that lead into vision? How is it different? Yeah.
Well, from clarity, which we get from mindfulness and purpose, I set a vision for my life. What do I really want? Not society's vision for me, which is, go to all the right schools, get the big job, work 90 hours a week, get the house on the coast. But what do I really want? What's my vision? And what are my ways of being in that vision? And then incorporating that and then say, okay, but I need that way of being now. I need, studies show, if I'm happy, I'm going to perform better.
Yes.
But society's taught us we can't be happy until we've checked off everything on the list. And then we keep adding to the list. So I say, no, we got to get that straight. So we want to get our vision, but then we want to work on that vision's already complete and be happy. And then I find those things just happen, in that mindset and a happy, satisfied, successful mindset. I'm just kind of unstoppable.
I love that. Giving ourselves to be happy and present before we reach those benchmarks or that amount of money, because who knows, we may never get there and it really doesn't matter, right? Yes, but
we lose sight of that's why we want the things to be happy. The things end up being what we're chasing instead of the feeling that that we want them to get, and that we just can't keep up with the Joneses. There's too many Joneses out there.
There are too many Joneses, and that is a really good idiom, keeping up with the Joneses. I'm sure we've done an episode on the podcast. So to finish up today, I mean, what would you say if our listeners, they're going after this, they want to try to implement these pillars of mindful leadership, but they hit up against reality, right? Culture or family expectations, which I know can be huge around the world, right? Your parents expect you to become a doctor or a surgeon. Is there some kind of phrase they can say to themselves, something they can keep in mind as they follow this path? Is there anything that they can kind of just remember as a piece of advice?
Oh, gosh. I guess just to be present. Keep letting those things go and come back to the present moment, which is most easily, just with the breath, is just be with the breath. Maybe close your eyes, listen to your breathing for a few minutes, take a walk in nature, take a walk around, those kind of things. Anything that you can do to make you present in the here and now. Most of us have something. My wife, it's painting. With me, it's snow skiing.
Yeah.
Find those kind of things too, that a lot of times we just haven't had the time. Oh yeah, I remember fly fishing. I love that. It's been 20 years, and it was the one thing. Or I find people in our program that, haven't played music since high school and they started up again. They go, oh, that was the thing.
Right. It's like, come back to play, slow down.
Where are you present? What do you do, when you're really present? And then when we have that, my goal is to bring that to work. I love to work.
I love it.
And I get that feeling at work because that's where I spend most of my time. If I got to be, all panicked and stressed out there so I can have 10 minutes at the end of the day, I don't think that's much of a life.
Yeah. So you're saying that becomes kind of a North Star that we're looking for. We know what that feels like when we're out skiing or we're playing the guitar. Then that should be what we're looking for at work, right?
And when I don't have that feeling, go, we all have to do some things we don't want to do. So I'm not talking about, pie in the sky, but generally, can I get those feelings and what are the activities and start noticing and maybe offload some of the ones that are particularly troubling? I say for executives, one question is, ask yourself, what can only I do? What only can I do? Make yourself some space so that you're available to be present for the people that you're with.
It's a great question. Maybe we'll have to have you on another day to explore that question.
Love to.
For executives, what is the thing that only I can do and how do we build our career around that? So we have to jump off the mic for today, but Eric, can you tell us where our listeners can find you online and tell us a little bit about your new book that's coming out soon? Yeah.
So we have a website, livinginthegap.org, spelled out, Living in the Gap. All of our programs, mindful leadership, right now, as I said, we're running an 8-week corporate mindfulness program. There's free resources on 21-day mindfulness, 10 minutes a day, those kind of things there, newsletter. Okay. And then the book coming out, Profit with Presence, is available for pre-sale on Amazon, launching March 7th.
Okay.
Get a copy. get started. And hopefully it's a book where, you can go as deep or just start as little bit as you want, but there's a lot there when you're ready for it.
Yeah.
And it's a resource book. And it shows you that, the choice between mindfulness or profit is a false choice. You can have both.
I love it. So good.
You can do both.
I love it. We can have a successful career, do as well as we want to financially, and be mindful, happy, and present. So good.
It's a book that says, capitalism is the greatest system in the world, and this is how it can work for everybody.
Love it. So good. So Eric, can you repeat that URL so our listeners know exactly where to go? Mm-hmm.
Livinginthegap.org. It's a 501c3. It's livinginthegap, spelled out, .org.
.org. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, Eric. I've enjoyed our chat, and I love that we connected over, we're both based here in Colorado, and
great. Yeah.
The mindfulness experience. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And I hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Take care. Bye. Thanks for listening to All Ears English. Would you like to know your English level? Take our 2-minute quiz. Go to allearsenglish.com/fluency score. And if you believe in connection, not perfection, then hit subscribe now to make sure you don't miss anything. See you next time.